Hi, everybody. We're going to give it just 1 minute for more people to trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But thank you so much today for joining our eScrap informational webinar. Right, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for joining today's informational webinar for the Electronics Scrap Recycling Advancement Prize, also referred to as eScrap. We are so excited that you are here, and we're looking forward to telling you all about this amazing opportunity. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. We have two options for audio. You can either listen through your computer or listen through your phone. We will be having a Q&A today at the very end. So if you do have any questions, please utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom of your bar, and we'll be trying to answer as many questions as possible, but all questions will be answered in writing and will be posted to HeroX after the webinar. We'll post them by next week. And then if you have any trouble with today's webinar, please feel free to chat the webinar host and panelists, and we will try our best to assist you. And then lastly, we will be recording today's webinar, and we'll be posting those along with the slide onto HeroX. For our agenda today, we'll plan to cover the background of eScrap, an overview of the prize, phase 1 and what you need to know, phase 2 and 3 and what to expect if you are selected, how to get started, and then we'll be doing our Q&A if we have time. eScrap was established by the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy and the Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Technologies Office. The prize is part of the American-Made Challenges program, and it is administered by the National Renewable Energy Lab. To help you be successful for the prize, please read the official rules before applying. This is really a resource and the guide for you for this prize, so please make sure that you read them. You can read the prize rules on our American Made Challenges website, or you can find them on HeroX as well. All right, now I'd like to hand it off to Jeremy Mehta from the U.S. Department of Energy. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, everyone. I'm glad you all could join today, and excited to tell you a little bit about eScrap. So DOE has been working in the critical materials and the circular economy space for a while now. We recognize that critical materials are a very important part of our clean energy transition, and securing supply chains for those materials are integral to meeting our clean energy goals. We also acknowledge that circular economy approaches are a big piece of securing those supply chains, and because of those two sort of focus areas, we have an interest in tapping into electronic scrap as a source of those critical materials. So to give a quick background on some of the what we mean by critical materials, the U.S. Department of Energy has identified materials that are they sort of fit two variables, that they are important to clean energy technologies and that they are susceptible to supply disruption. So those critical materials have been outlined by the department, and you can learn more about those. I can drop a link in the chat. They're also outlined in the rules. So they go into technologies such as wind turbine generators, batteries for electric vehicles, and grid storage, semiconductors, for solar panels, electrolyzers, fuel cells, etc. And so to improve our supply chain resilience and security for these materials, we want to, tap into our e-waste and e-scrap streams that exist in the United States. You can go to the next slide. So this is the list of critical materials. We've coined the term the Electric 18. Again, you can read more about these materials and why we consider them critical in a link that I'll put in the chat, or there's a reports that are cited in the rules document. But as you can see, these materials, whether you look at it from the right to the left, or the left to the right, they are important to meeting our clean energy goals, because they are as I said, the building blocks to some of these clean energy technologies that are going to help us reach those goals. This is a quick slide that sort of shows that these materials are growing in importance, largely driven by our clean energy transition, and these materials are like I said, assessed to be susceptible to supply disruption for a number of various reasons, including but not limited to the limited domestic production, the geographical concentration of their supply chains, and the potential impact of non-market activities by other governments. So this is sort of a summary of our assessment that I mentioned on material criticality. You can see that we've identified materials along those two variables I told you about, supply risk and importance to energy. And we've done that in the short and medium term. So this is a good way to sort of visualize what materials and why these certain materials are critical and important. And I think it's important to highlight that a lot of these materials exist in the electronic scrap and electronic waste that is produced in the United States today. Therefore, highlighting the importance of increasing the recovery and reuse of these materials through innovative and strategic approaches to handling our e-scrap and e-waste. So to incentivize the recovery of these materials and to hopefully generate some collaboration and cooperation across the value chain, the Department of Energy created the e-scrap competition, or the Electronic Scrap Recycling Advancement Prize. That's what it stands for. And I think it kind of brings together a lot of my audio cut out. Sorry about that. I think it brings together a lot of the sort of current I guess variables that exist in both our clean energy transition and our current e-scrap landscape. So one of which is that the amount of e-scrap that's being produced is increasing each year, and the amount of materials that we need for our clean energy transition is increasing each year. The e-scrap that we do produce, not only is it potentially not being tapped into for the materials that we've identified as critical, and they're here in the United States, and they're potentially not being captured and reinserted into our supply chain, but they also pose potential health and environmental challenges, both in the U.S. and outside the U.S., depending on the end of their their existence, I guess, where they end up. So we see the recovery of these materials as valuable to our clean energy transition, but also valuable to the environmental and human health priorities of the United States. Go to the next slide. Thank you. So the goals of this prize, they focus, like I said, on innovative approaches, processes, and technologies that are in service of optimizing and implementing critical material separation and recovery from e-scrap. So those key terms there, optimizing and implementing. Like I said, the Department of Energy, as well as other areas in the government, have been focusing on recovering critical materials and other materials from electronic waste and electronic scrap for a while. But it's very important that these technologies are made practical and made and optimized to a point where they can be commercialized and deployed in a way that sort of addresses some of the concerns that I outlined around accessing some of the critical materials that are often go overlooked, and doing it in a way that can be integrated into existing recycling value chains, or establishing new ones that have confidence and have the right partners to really scale and implement. So the prize is designed to stimulate those circular supply chains in domestic manufacturing of critical materials, as well as identifying and advancing and testing those innovative technologies and approaches, both by increasing awareness of the opportunities to extend the lifetime of products, but also by recovering materials from end of life. So e-scrap is interested in innovations that, like I said, establish or expand the recovery of critical materials along the recycling value chain from end of life to reintroduction. And critical material recovery and reintroduction should reduce the life cycle impacts compared to raw and virgin feedstock. So not only are we identifying and accessing a domestic source of these critical materials, but we're doing it in a way that is improving upon our current sources of these critical materials, which are often raw and virgin feedstock. So what I mean by improving upon is those life cycle impacts can include the energy or carbon footprint, water expenditure, chemical use, impact on the environment or on human health. We want to not just recover these materials for the sake of recovering them domestically. We want to do it better than they're currently sourced. So those are the goals of this prize.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, we're going to go through the overview of this prize now that we have some background on how this prize came to be. So e-scrap is a $3.95 million prize with more than $3 million in cash prizes and $900,000 in technical assistance from national laboratories. The prize is designed to stimulate innovative approaches that reduce the cost and environmental impact of critical material recovery from electronic scrap, also known as e-scrap. E-scrap has 3 phases: incubate, prototype, and demonstrate. Phase 1, incubate, opened on March 6th and runs through September 4th. In this phase, competitors will identify innovations that have the potential to substantially increase the amount of recovered critical materials from electronic waste and used in U.S. manufacturing. In phase 2, competitors will prototype their innovation and begin collecting and/or generating data that can be used to optimize techno-economic strategy and life cycle impacts between partners along the recycling value chain. And in phase 3, competitors will begin implementing their innovation and identify how it will scale. As I mentioned, this is a $3.95 million prize. The table on the slide details the prize amounts and the duration for each phase. In phase 1, we'll be selecting up to 10 winners, and those winners will be receiving a $50,000 cash prize per winner. And then they'll also be receiving up to $30,000 in analyst consulting to use in phase 2. In phase 2, we'll be selecting up to 5 winners, and each of those winners will be receiving $150,000 in cash and up to $120,000 in analyst technical support to use in phase 3. And then lastly, in phase 3, we'll be selecting up to 3 winners who will be receiving $600,000 in cash. So throughout this entire prize, competitors will have the opportunity to win up to $800,000 in cash and $150,000 in national laboratory analyst consultation and technical assistance. And just noting for that $150,000 in national lab support. So you'll be, again, getting that $30,000 at the end of phase 1 if you win, and you'll be using that in phase 2. And then if you win phase 2, you'll get that $120,000 at the end and be able to use that in phase 3 at a national lab. So to go into a little bit more detail about that technical assistance, in addition to the cash prizes, winners will be able to access support from national laboratories for analysts such as life cycle analysis, or LCA, or techno-economic analysts, or TEA, to help accelerate their innovation development and maximize environmental and economic benefits. LCA is a methodology for assessing the environmental impacts associated with the entire life cycle of a product or process. TEA is a method for evaluating the economic performance of a technology, allowing analysis to objectively weigh benefits against cost. These are just 2 types of analysis that could be used, and it'll be depending on what your innovation is for the support that you may be doing at a national lab to be in phase 2 and phase 3. So eScrap is interested in innovations that enhance the recovery of critical materials along the recycling value chain, from end-of-life products to reintroduction. Innovations of interest that, are those that optimize and implement critical material separation and recovery from electronic scrap. You can also read more about our areas of interest in the official rules. We also have some areas that are not of interest, so such as separation or recovery of materials from batteries, unless they are paired with the recovery of critical materials from other electronic devices, and research and development efforts that have not been proved or at bench scale. Again, you can read more about these areas of interest and not of interest in the official rules in section 1.3 and section 1.4. So eScrap is open to individuals and teams of individuals, private entities, which could consist of for-profits and nonprofits, and non-federal government entities, which could contain states, counties, tribes, municipalities, and academic institutions. Please make sure that you read the full eligibility in the official prize rules to see if you are eligible to compete in this prize. All right, now that we have more background and the overview of the prize and the phases, let's go into phase 1 and what you need to know before applying. Phase 1 has 3 goals: opportunity and innovation identification, which means that competitors should be identifying and describing what innovations are needed and what impact they will have on recovered critical materials on eScrap. Second goal is plan development. Competitors should develop a plan to validate and optimize the benefits of the innovation, including how it will be integrated into the recycling value chain. And the last goal for phase 1 is stakeholder representation and connectivity. Competitors should identify partners in the recycling value chain that will provide inputs, so upstream, or handle outputs, so downstream, from the innovations process or technology. At the end of this phase will be selecting up to 10 winners, and each of those winners will be receiving $50,000 in cash, and again, up to $30,000 in analyst consultation from a national lab. For our first phase, this is our timeline. So the first phase is currently open. It's a 6-month-long phase. Submissions will be due by September 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we are anticipating announcing our winners in December of 2024. We don't have an exact date yet, and we'll keep you posted. You can stay up to date on major dates on the HeroX timeline. For your phase 1 submission package, you will need to submit a cover page, a 90-second online video, a summary slide of your submission, an analyst support work slide, and a narrative. You may also submit letters of support, but this is an optional item. I want to note that there are 2 items here that will be made public after we announce winners, and that's the online video and your submission summary slide. Additionally, only one of these items is scored, which is the narrative. So we're going to talk about each of these requirements quickly. So this first requirement is the cover page. This information will be collected through the HeroX submission form, and it's not a separate document upload, but you'll need to list this basic information about your submission. Your next requirement is this 90-second online video. This video should answer, what is your innovation? Please make sure that you post your video publicly and it is accessible. We will be checking that, and we will be emailing you to let you know if we need that video accessible. And we recommend that you focus on the required content and not the production quality. And then again, as a reminder, this will be made public. And the last thing I will stress on this is, do not make your video any longer than 90 seconds. If you do, we won't watch it past the 90 seconds. If you make a 5-minute video, we will not be watching all 5 minutes. So please make sure that you are concise and you make it 90 seconds. The third requirement for your submission is a summary slide about your submission. It should contain technically specific details, but that can be understood by most people. And then again, this will be made public. This should only be 1 slide, not multiple slides. Again, if it is more than 1 slide, we'll only look at the first slide of for your submission summary. Your next submission requirement is the analysis support work slide. This should briefly describe any analysis that your team has already done. Describe how the technical support and consultation for analysis from a national lab will help your team, and identify which types of analysis would provide the most insight, and then list your top 3 choices. So we are going to be working with Argonne, these 6 labs that are posted on this slide. So please choose one of your top 3 from those 6 here, and we'll try our best to accommodate those when we select our winners. But the purpose of this analysis support work slide is to facilitate matching winning teams with appropriate national lab consulting during phase 2. So again, those who win will try our best to make sure that we can match you up with those that are preferred. And that is why we ask you to list your top 3. All right, the last required submission item is the narrative. In the narrative, you will answer the 4 following questions. Each of these questions has suggested content along with judging criteria. The narrative should not exceed more than 2,500 words, and you may add up to 5 supporting images, figures, or graphs to your narrative. We also have a template for you to use, and you can find that on HeroX under the Resources tab. And then lastly, again, this narrative will be scored, and I'll talk about our scoring in a moment. And then I mentioned that you may upload letters of support. And again, this is completely optional. If you are going to submit your letters of support, please make sure that you only submit the ones that are from partners or others that are critical to the success of your proposed innovation. All letters of support must be combined into a single PDF cut document, and each letter must not exceed more than 1 page. All right, so the narrative is scored and each section is weighted. So this is how you can read the scoring rubric to ensure your success. And the left column will be the topic you are addressing, as well as the weight percentage for that section. So on this slide as our example, we have innovation as the top, value chain insight and opportunity as the topic, and 25% of this is your weighted score. In the middle column is the suggested content to provide. There are several suggested content bullets you could provide to address the judging criteria. And then lastly, in the right column is what your score will be based on. You will see the judging criteria that the reviewers will use to score your submission. All right, so each submission will be reviewed by a panel of reviewers who will score and provide comments. Expert reviewers will evaluate your submission by assigning a single score, 0 through 5, for each scored submission section based on their overall agreement or disagreement with a series of statements, which is strongly agree to strongly disagree. The final score from an individual reviewer will be calculated based on the weighting shown. All reviewer scores will then be averaged for a final reviewer score for the submission package. DOE is the final judge and will make selections based on reviewer scores and comments, as well as program policy factors. Additionally, the prize administration team may decide to hold interviews with teams or clarify any questions or information before announcement of winners. Interviews are not an indication of winning. Also, we will be providing all comments from our reviewers to you after we announce our winners. We'll provide those in emails to you. You will not be receiving your score, but you will be receiving your comments from reviewers. All right, now that you know what you need to submit for phase 1, I'm going to do a quick demo of HeroX, which is our prize platform, and what you'll be submitting through. We have dropped a link in the chat earlier to HeroX, so please follow along on this demo at that link for HeroX. And all right, here is our HeroX page, excuse me. So we have on here we have our summary of the prize, so you can read more about our prize here, what the structure is, our guidelines, and everything here. You can also get a link to the rules directly on the summary. Our next timeline here, if you go to our timeline, you can see all of our important dates that we have going on for this prize. So please make sure that you stay up to date by following along the HeroX and checking out our timeline updates. This is where we'll post any important information about the prize, as well as when we announce our winners for phase 1. If you have any questions, please go to our forum here and post your questions here, as well as check out other questions that have been asked through email or through our other informational webinar. Someone may have already asked your question, and we may have already have that answered here in the forum. And then entries, this is where you'll find your entry resources. Here is where you can find our rules, our previous informational webinar, the recording here, teaming resources, our power connectors, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then our templates for each of the phases and our FAQs. You can begin your entry by clicking on this begin entry, or joining a team. If you already have someone that has started an entry, you can join their team here. You'll begin the entry here, and then it'll ask you to start filling out this information. So you'll need to make sure that you acknowledge that you're eligible to apply for this prize. And then scrolling down here, here's the cover page that I was talking about. This is, again, not a separate upload. This is what you will fill out onto HeroX to come up with that cover page requirement. And then here's the submission package with the narrative, the summary slide, this analysis support work slide, and the letters of support. So that you'll upload all of the documents here. So that is the HeroX. Again, if you have any questions or have any difficulty, please reach out and let us know. You can also come back to this submission. You can save it and it'll draft so you can work on it throughout the phase 1 up until the submission deadline. You may also be able to, you can also, submit your submission now, and then you can edit it up until the submission deadline. So up until 5 p.m. on September 4th, you can make changes to your submission, but after 5 p.m. September 4th, Eastern time, you will not be able to make changes to your submission. Okay, let's get into now phase 2 and phase 3 of what to expect for this prize if you are selected for these phases. So during phase 2 prototype, we'll be focusing on deepening insight by leveraging national lab expertise or other resources to understand the benefits of your innovation, validating and advancing your innovation towards implementation, and sharing information with other upstream and downstream entities. In this phase, you do not need to be a winner of phase 1 to compete in this phase. This phase is open to any competitor as long as they meet the eligibility requirements. So if you do not win phase 1, you can also still apply for phase 2. In this phase, winners will have the opportunity to win $150,000 in cash and up to $120,000 in analyst technical assistance from a national lab. And we'll only be selecting up to 5 winners for this phase. For phase 2, we're anticipating launching it in December of this year and with an expected submission deadline in August of 2025. From December to August, the phase 1 winners will receive their $30,000 of analyst consultation from a national lab to use during this phase. So similar to phase 1, competitors will be submitting 5 items for phase 2. They'll be submitting a cover page, a 90-second online video, a submission summary slide, analysis support work slide, and a narrative. And then again, please note that the online video and summary slide will be made public, and you can find more information about these requirements in the official rules document. All right, and during phase 3, demonstrate will be focusing on demonstrating your innovation and how it's making progress and executing the plan, integrating with partners and gathering information, and developing a long-term plan for your innovation so your innovation will be successful post-prize. In this phase, you must be a winner of phase 2 to compete in phase 3. So unlike phase 2, you have to win this phase 2 to be able to participate in phase 3. And we'll be only selecting up to 3 winners, and each of those winners will have the opportunity to win $600,000 in cash. We're anticipating launching phase 3 in October of 2025 with an expected submission deadline in October of 2026. So this is a 12-month long phase. From October 2025 to October 2026, the phase 2 winners will receive their $120,000 amount in technical assistance to use at a national lab. So during phase 3, they can use those funds. All right, so for phase 3, you'll be submitting 6 items, a cover page, a 90-second online video, a submission summary slide, a committed partnership or support letter, and a narrative. Additionally, competitors must participate in the LCA Commons and Material Reuse Clearinghouse. So again, please note that we'll be making that online video and submission summary slide public. If you're a winner from phase 2, you can just update your online video and submission summary slide, but again, find more information about these requirements in the official rules. All right, now that you know more about this prize, you can get started today and apply before the submission deadline. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some resources for you to help you during phase 1, and that'll be just helpful for you throughout the entire course of this prize. So the first resource for competitors are our power connectors. Power connectors can support competitors by answering questions, providing general feedback on your submission materials, and providing general support. We have two power connectors that you can connect with, ADL and Yet2. This slide has their contact information, but you can also find it on HeroX in our FAQs tab. And these power connectors are completely free for you to use. They are they're paid for by NREL team or by NREL. So free for you. Please utilize these power connectors. Again, they're a free resource for you and can help you with your submission. So contact them to schedule a one-on-one with them to get help on your submission. All right, the next thing is that we really want to highlight our partnerships. So the Department of Energy has invested in the research and development of innovative technologies that can recover and recycle metals from electronic scrap. To advance these technologies toward commercial application, they must be optimized and integrated within the e-scrap value chain. So by coordinating with partners upstream to understand composition, concentration, and flow rate can help tailor and improve the medical recovery process and prove out the economic and life cycle benefits of technologies. And by coordinating with partners downstream can help you understand the material benchmarks and standards that must be met or overcome to validate the recovered material for introduction into the marketplace. It's really important to be able to be the most successful with this prize is to have partnerships upstream and downstream or downstream to be the most successful to help you understand the best way for critical material recovery. And with the partnerships, because this is so important throughout this prize, you'll see in each of the phases and each of the goals, we really highlight about your partnerships and integrating with partners along the recycling value chain. So we want to make sure that you understand that you should be partnering with other organizations along the value chain. And, partnerships enable organizations to combine your resources, including technology, infrastructure, and expertise. By sharing your resources, partners can optimize and integrate the innovative recovery processes, streamline your operations, and reduce redundant efforts. We have more information, or if you want more information about partnering, we have a teaming information on the resources tab. You can click on that and fill out the teaming form. It'll then be going into a database where people can have access to that database and can reach out to you. I would encourage you to fill out that teaming form, look at the teaming spreadsheet, and connect with another partner along the value chain to partner up with them for your submission for the prize. Additionally, after you connect with after you fill out that form on HeroX, we may be reaching out to you to see if you've connected with anyone else and how we can support you in connecting with another partner. And then we will also be having a teaming event on July 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern that we encourage all of you to attend to find a partner for this prize, partner that can help you with your critical material recovery and the goals for this prize. We'll drop a link into the chat, but you'll be able to find that on the resources tab in the teaming information. All right, and additionally, some other resources. So of the previous work in the e-scrap space, So the Department of Energy has invested in the research, development, and demonstration of technologies to recover materials from electronic scrap for nearly a decade and continues to invest moving forward. So you can see at these links, and we'll drop those into the chat, you can see all the various different projects that has been done that DOE has invested in. So check those out if you're curious on other projects that have been done and you want ideas or you just need any as a resource. Check out these links. DOE has really invested in this space and is continuing to move forward. So we want you to feel supported through this as well. All right. So lastly, if you are interested in signing up for the prize, make sure that you follow the prize on HeroX. You have to submit your submission on HeroX to be able to participate in this prize. So make sure you follow the prize and sign up on HeroX. It's completely free to create an account there. Make sure that you read the official rules before applying. Again, this is a resource and the guide for this prize for you. So make sure that you read the official rules and then submit your submission by September 4th by 5 p.m. Eastern time. We will not be accepting late submission. So make sure that you submit early to make sure that you don't run into any technical issues of submitting your submission. And then if you have additional questions, you can post on the HeroX forum. That's a great resource. So then everybody can see your question and we can post your answer. So then everybody has access to that same answer. If you have any, if you need additional support, please make sure that you use a power connector. Again, they're a free resource for you. Contact them, either ADL or Yet2. They are both awesome. And then lastly, you can reach out to us at escrap.prize@nrel.gov for any of your additional questions. All right, now is our time for our Q&A. If you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A button and don't use the chat function because we might not see it. And we'll be trying to answer as many questions live, but if we don't get to your question, or if we do, we'll be posting a written answer on HeroX by next week. So you can check out on HeroX any of the questions posted here today. And if you have, I see there's a couple of questions already in the Q&A. And so you feel free to ask your questions now. And Jeremy, might need some of your help for some of these questions here. Let's see. All right, our first question here is 83% of e-scrap in landfill for the US or globally. So I know we said we have that statistic about 83% of e-scrap is ending up in the landfill. Jeremy, is this statistic in the US? I believe it is.
Correct.
Correct. Yes. So 83% is happening in the US. Our next question here, does the Department of Energy have volume targets for the 18 critical minerals, for the energy sector, like a year-on-year breakdown for what volumes of these minerals are needed to provide sustainable flow of raw materials?
We have a number of demand scenarios that we use to assess criticality. I will type an answer to that with a link to that assessment so you can see how much we projected the demand to be for each material.
Thank you. All right, our next question, can we get guidance on how to message what we're building? In other grants, the grantors are not allowed to do this, but since this is a prize, it may be different. So in the rules, we have suggested content for what you can provide, or for content for you to provide. We suggest that you read through the official rules and what we're asking, and that's how you you write out your submission. If you have additional questions on how to convey your message, please reach out to our power connectors. They're going to be a great resource for you in that. At us prize administrators, myself and Jeremy, we cannot provide any additional support for you outside of what is in the rules and the resources we are giving that is on HeroX. Our next question, would you be able to share a reliable report showing the current or the most recent status of e-scrap in the US? Jeremy, is there a link or is that on AMTO for the most recent report on e-scrap, the status of e-scrap in the US?
I'll drop a link to the most recent one I'm aware of. I would also encourage folks to look at I know it's not answering a question about the US specifically, but a nice report came out of the UN Global E-Waste Monitor. I'll also post a link to that as well.
Thanks, Jeremy. And also in the rules, there's a lot of links and resources in the rules about e-scrap and critical material recovery. So please make sure that you check out the rules and those links there. All right, our next question, can the same team submit multiple submissions? Please read the official rules for the eligibility and submission requirements. That will have your answers there. I believe that we have in the official rules that a team can submit up to 2 submissions. But again, please read the official rules for the answer. It's going to be early on in those rules there for you. For those who are asking about where to access this recorded webinar, we'll be posting it onto HeroX after this webinar, and we'll be posting all of these questions and their answers onto HeroX by next week. We also had an informational webinar in March of this year, so you can check out that recording and that slide deck under the resources tab on HeroX. Let's see. Our organization would like to bring an e-scrap center to our lower income community. We see the need and don't have any experience with labs. Is just a center suffice? I'm not quite sure, like with your question, please make sure that you read the official rules and looking at the narrative and what we're asking in the narrative and answering those questions, that suggested content and the judging criteria. You don't need to have experience with a national lab to participate in this, and you don't need to know anyone at a national lab. We'll be making those connections for you if you are selected as a winner at the end of phase 1. But if you are making your analysis support work slide and you don't have any analysis done, that's okay. You can write about the analysis that you would like to do if you are selected in phase 1. All right, the next question, do we need to demonstrate that we have 1, a source of e-scrap for testing, and 2, that our method works for e-scrap? First, we believe it will work for e-scrap based on preliminary data. Sorry, just rereading that question. Jeremy, can you help out with this question here about demonstrating if they have a source for e-scrap for testing and the method for that their method works for e-scrap?
Sure. So you'll see throughout the rules the terminology of establish or expand the recovery of critical materials from e-scrap. So the applications or the submissions will be evaluated on the ability for a team to demonstrate that they can do that. So I would say whatever step in the value chain from end of life to reintroduction, as long as you can articulate that the innovation or the improvement that you're making does establish or expand the amount of critical materials recovered from e-scrap waste, then I would say that's the type of information we're looking for. So the example you gave, I think would achieve that, but it's not the only way. So you suggested, I guess, like looking at a source, characterizing it, and then being able to characterize how much materials are covered after. That is one way to demonstrate that you've established or expanded critical material recovery from e-waste or e-scrap, but there are other advances or innovations that you could pursue.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right, our next question, you mentioned certain things would be made public. Is that true for all submissions or only winners? It is true for all submissions. So if you are submitting to this prize, your 90-second video and your submission summary slide will be made public after the winner announcement. Our next question, do you work with DoD labs and other departments like the EPA? For this prize specifically, we are working with select national labs for this prize. So again, look through the official rules and the national labs that we are working with for your technical support throughout this prize. Right. I'm not seeing any more questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A. If not, we will be ending our webinar a little early. But again, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted onto HeroX along with the slide deck. And you can find those under the resources tab on HeroX. If you have any additional questions, you can post them on the HeroX forum and we will get to them as quickly as we can. You can also send us a message at escrap.prize@nrel.gov and we'll get back to you again as quickly as possible. But we encourage you to post your questions onto HeroX on the forum so that way everyone can see that question and we can also post that answer publicly. It's more accessible for everyone. Additionally, if you need more support for this prize, please make sure you reach out to our Power Connectors. They are there for you, again, as a free resource. And you can find their contact information under the resources tab on HeroX. And then we will be having a teaming event coming up in July in about a month. We'll be posting more information about that on HeroX. So if you're interested in connecting with another partner for your eScrap submission, please make sure that you check out that teaming event. We'll be posting again that on HeroX. Oh, I get one more question here. If we are also applying for another grant and are granted, do we need to forfeit one of them? SBIRs have this rule that you can only have one source of money for the same problem or project. Make sure that you read the official rules about eligibility. If you select or are selected for this prize, you don't need to, necessarily opt out for another grant or anything, but we don't know what other prizes or grants that you are applying for and what those requirements are. So please make sure that you read through the official rules thoroughly through the appendix and everything to see what the requirements are for this prize and being selected for it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar. Again, you can find all of this information on HeroX. We'll be posting it shortly. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And don't forget to submit your submission by September 4th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all.